Hello and thanks for joining us for France in Focus. This week we're at a pub in Paris called The Bowler. It's a pub which serves up a brew called Brexit, which is very appropriate because that is the topic of this week's edition. We're going to be asking, what will Brexit mean for the tens of thousands of British people living in this country and many more French people living in the United Kingdom? Six months into the negotiation process between London and Brussels, many in the business and finance community say they're none the wiser as to what the future might hold. And for some time now, people have been saying that if London's status as a regional finance hub is eroded, then other European cities stand to benefit. But could Paris be one of those cities? Our France 24 team went to find out.
Le plus important chantier du monde se trouve à Paris, au rond-point de la Défense.
When the first towers went up in La Défense, the area was nicknamed the Parisian Wall Street. 60 years later, La Défense is being cleaned up and renovated. And there's a certain Britishness in the air.
On garde la soucoupe dans la main gauche, la tasse dans la main droite, et on boit une gorgée à la fois. On ne verse pas.
Free courses on British manners and how to make tea are on offer.
Le thé au micro-ondes, impossible.
Since the referendum in June 2016, not a single British business has relocated to La Défense. Frankfurt, Dublin and Amsterdam are all hoping for their slice of the cake if Brexit forces finance out of London. Mathieu Thomas works for Choose Paris Region. He's on the phone to the London office of Business France, the government agency which seeks out firms considering a move to Paris.
Du coup, Paris, c'est sûr, hein? Tu me confirmes qu'il n'y a pas d'autres villes en lice, là?
Non.
Super.
Mathieu's mission is to help foreign firms get settled in.
Trouver des locaux, les mettre en relation avec
finding office space, putting them in contact with regulators. We also look after families by helping spouses find a job in France.
We met one of the new arrivals. The asset management fund Eleva Capital has moved its head office to Paris.
L'été n'a pas été un été remarquable. Ça m'a rappelé mes années à Londres.
Britain's membership of the EU single market has allowed London-based firms to trade services across European borders. But this passport could disappear after Brexit, cutting Eleva Capital off from 95% of its clients.
We want to stay close to our clients. We have many clients in the continent, and and most of them are in France. We can't take the risk because we don't want to be in an insecure position with regard to our product and the clients.
But the French capital is struggling to get big foreign banks and businesses on board. Many fear France's reputation for rigid labour laws and a lack of fluent English speakers. The British capital is putting on a brave face. But businesses are preparing for a possible hard Brexit. This French boss says he'll lose talent for his fintech firm if Britain restricts freedom of movement. But with so many clients on his doorstep, he doesn't plan on switching London for Paris.
It's a beautiful city. I love it. I've lived in Paris. I've got friends in Paris. I go back to Paris on a regular basis. It's obviously an important market for Yo-Yo as well. But there's no question of imagining the headquarters of Yo-Yo being in Paris in the near future.
The March 2019 deadline and Britain's exit from the EU are creeping closer. European cities are competing to fill London's shoes. And Paris is not yet in pole position.
For British people living in France, there remains a good deal of uncertainty about what Brexit is going to mean. In particular, for pensioners whose income and whose savings are in pounds, and they're now feeling the squeeze because of the sharp drop in value of the sterling against the euro. There are also questions about their medical benefits. Well, we're going to take you now to a very British corner of France, the Dordogne, to see how people there feel about Brexit.
A lovely view of the Dordoigne's unspoiled countryside. It was enough to convince this British couple to move to the region 11 years ago.
When we first came from the airport and we started to drive this way, I said it reminds me of Somerset and Devon because of all the lovely rolling hills.
A house with a swimming pool, surrounded by nature. Life was good before the shock of Brexit. Now the Browns are worried about the future.
Du jour au lendemain, le taux d'échange entre la livre sterling et nos pensions sont payées.
From one day to the next, the exchange rate changed. Our pensions are paid in sterling, the pound went down by 15%. Another problem is healthcare. It's the British state that pays for our treatment here. I don't know if that's going to continue.
Je ne sais pas si ça va continuer.
The repercussions of Brexit are beginning to be felt by this estate agent. 65% of their customers are British.
Today there are less retired people coming because there's so much uncertainty. Without the British, the town would be less well known, less exciting. They generate a lot of business and create jobs.
There are English cars in the street, British flags, and English hairdressers, a British grocer's, and of course a pub, managed by a Brit.
Everything is in French and in English here.
Bilingual, but it's hard to choose between France and the UK.
My whole life story is English. But I've lived in France for 8 years. I feel really at home here. But I can't say that I feel French. That's difficult. If you'd asked if I felt European, I would say yes.
His wife thinks he should apply for dual nationality.
He pays taxes, he works here, he gives a lot and gets a lot back. Our children are taught in public schools, we use the doctor. I feel it's time he gets to vote. If this speeds things up, then great.
Taking French nationality is a must for some. Like this Brit who works for the town council.
Brexit won't happen until 2019 or 2020. The next elections are in 2020. I hope to have finished all the paperwork for my dual nationality application by then. I'm not doing it because of Brexit, but because I want to invest in the town.
At the moment, 15% of the town's population are British. Most hope to stay in France after Brexit.
Well, as we've seen there are some serious questions, and many people are worried about what the future holds with regard to Brexit. But luckily, some people are managing to see the funny side of things. One of those people is British comedian and author Ian Moore, who joins me now for some afternoon tea. Hi there, Ian. Let me just start by asking you, you're in the process of becoming a French national. Along the road, have you found situations that have given you fodder for your comedy show?
Well, in a way it has. In a way Brexit's been quite good for business, but insofar as I write a successful blog and hopefully got a book coming out, but as far as stand-up goes, it hasn't been that funny. If you were to say the word Brexit on stage in the UK, they've suddenly become very English about the whole thing and sort of look around and say, well, Brexit? What Brexit? And, you know, terribly sorry and things like that. But finding the French nationality has become a source of humour insofar as I'm so incompetent at dealing with French bureaucracy. And I mean, French bureaucracy is a kind of, it has a reputation for being rather Kafkaesque anyway. But the kind of things I've had to get together for the naturalisation dossier, things like birth certificates and marriage certificates, which you expect, but birth certificates and marriage certificates of your grandparents, which I wasn't really expecting. The kind of documents I'm having to find, you know, it just goes back so far. My granddad's false teeth, the Holy Grail, you've really got to just dig out some amazing things.
How have you managed to make Brexit a theme, a central theme of much of the comedy work you do?
Well, I talk a lot about living in France anyway, so it has to come up. I can't ignore it. I mean, quite a few times you turn up to shows. I remember the day after Brexit, the vote, I was doing a show in London, and then it was an awards ceremony, and it was a European Technology Awards ceremony. And the guy who was organising it came up to me and said, about that thing last night, don't mention that. This is a European, everybody's talking about it, you can't not mention it. You have to bring it in some way. It's just you can't say the specific word Brexit, that really causes a problem. You can talk about what's happened, but not the specific word.
What's been the reaction here in France to your work? Do people tend to find the whole idea of Brexit quite amusing?
Over here, what I've found is that when you talk to people about it, they kind of look at you like you've got an injury, like you've just limped into the room or something and you need taking care of. Whereas in the UK, it's kind of just, please, just don't mention it.
I gather you enjoy sport, and I presume up until now you've supported England in the football and the rugby. Are you ready to start supporting Les Bleus?
I am. I'm more than prepared to support Les Bleus because I've supported the English national team since I was born. So that's it's over 40 years ago, and we've won nothing. So I'd love to support a team that's actually looking like it might win something. I don't know if I feel French. I've stopped indicating on roundabouts if that helps. And I did no work in August at all. I'm probably overqualified by now, but and I eat my cheese in the proper way. I eat it, before dessert. That's how it should be done.
Okay, just before we finish, Ian, hit me with your best Brexit joke.
Best Brexit gag. Why did Boris Johnson cross the road?
No idea.
For personal political gain after giving David Cameron assurances that he wouldn't go to the other side.
Okay, well, thank you very much indeed for that. British comedian and author Ian Moore. And on that light note, we end this edition. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. I'll see you again soon here on France 24. Before we finish, Ian, hit me with your best Brexit joke.
Why did Boris Johnson cross the road? I forgot, please. It's my one job.